Good evening. Thank you. Welcome to the third Tuesday of the odd month. And it's wonderful to see you all here this evening. My name is Renee LaBelle. I'm your host tonight. We have a great speaker tonight who actually happens to be an adjunct professor at UT Dallas. His name is Chuck Haseman, and I'm very grateful that he has agreed to speak tonight. I wanted to give a brief introduction. He told me that he's a Boy Scout vice chairman and that they just had a huge STEM conference and STEM, science, technology, engineering, math. So that's really cool because we need a lot more STEM around these days, don't we? He said he also tries to keep out of trouble with his wife. He's been an expat in many countries around the planet, and he's also a servant leader. So let's welcome Chuck.
I hope tonight is good for those of you who are project managers and working on your PMP certification, et cetera, all that good stuff. I have a pet peeve. I have two masters in engineering, and
the channel on their favorite Roku device.
we'll get this turned off. Well, let's do that. Let's turn it off. The bottom line is, I teach here at the university. I've been working on the IT space. I'm IT service management, information service management. I teach a class that's affectionately known as our 3300, which is basically introduction to IT for business. And we run probably 800 students through that a semester. If you're going to graduate from UTD in the School of Management at all, I would have got there. If you're going to do anything in the School of Management, what we call JSOM affectionately here at UTD, you got to have that class to graduate. So we get the opportunity of seeing basically every student that comes into play here. And I've been teaching that for about a year and a half now. And this summer I'm having the fun time. I'm teaching an MBA course with another professor to doctors on IT. And if any of you have ever had the privilege of working with doctors and how they understand IT, information technology, and being doctors, I think, are the closest thing to God. At least they'd tell you that. And so their IT, they think they got it all figured out, but it's kind of fun because we're going through a learning curve for them this summer. What I'm going to talk about tonight is the only constant in life is change. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about, I'm a very strong believer in what I call the soft side of technology. And we've got all the hardware, we got all the software, but I think just like the reason I started talking about the doctors, and the doctors think they got it all figured out, many times we find teams on projects that they figure working with the client, working with communicating with each other, relationships, etc., is all just part of the, it's like air or water. It's there. I mean, you know, I got a degree and I can write code and I know all about what we're trying to fix here, so I'm going to show up and do my job and everything will be perfect. But I think looking around the room, there's a lot of seasoned, mature people here. I think we know that there's more to it than just going through and knowing bits and bytes, knowing the software, etc., but there's a lot more to it than that. How did I get here? So I kind of throw this together. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. I never was going to be in computers. These are not highlights. I was actually, I remember when we didn't have PCs. And I remember when everything was mainframe. I came to Dallas with Zale Corporation. They brought me down from the Pacific Northwest. If it wasn't for the Spotted Owl, I would be running a lumber company right now in the Pacific Northwest. I am a fourth generation of timber lumber company people. Drove log truck while I was going to college. Was being paid $35 an hour in 1974. Very nice money. And Mount St. Helens, I grew up on the base of Mount St. Helens. Spent all my time on that lake. It's called Spirit Lake, which is now 400 feet below lava. Those who know me here, I've limped around a lot over the years. Last year I got a new hip, and I was a very active snow skier and a very active water skier. Little Boy Scout I got there. It's kind of what put me all together, and McDonald's, for my own personal and everything I'm going to talk tonight about in regards to the soft sides of technology as part of the project management process is based on Hamburger U. Anybody ever hear of Hamburger U? McDonald's has a program for their up-and-coming leadership, et cetera. They run them through about about 2-month program. They had a portable Hamburger U that came to the Seattle area, and I went up there. And to this day, and you're going to hear about a few other things I've done, to this day, everything I do in regards to project management, in regards to business, accounting, in regards to hiring, firing, in regards to real estate services, et cetera, is based on what I was taught, some basic skills I was taught at Hamburger U. And even though I've got a couple masters and been to school a little bit, and as was mentioned earlier, traveled a little bit around the world, I still fall back on that. And the other thing is like the Boy Scouts, which has got the traditional scout law and all that, and everything I do management-wise comes out of that, out of the basis of trying to figure out how to do these different things. I got into Zale Corporation in Seattle when I was in college. I walked into a store and was offered, they said you get a discount if you got a ring, and bought the ring. If you worked here, you get a discount, 25%, so I went to work for Zale. And 21 years later, I left Zale after 15 years running stores and then 6 years as the director of IT services for the entire corporation of Zale, back when Zale had a lot of different brands and it wasn't just Zale Jewelers. And that got me into the IT side, purely by accident. We were in a process of wanting to gut all the stores and put in new POS systems. And I was asked to come help, and I knew nothing. I'd never even, the only class I'd had in college up to that point was the fact that we did a Fortran marketing something down for, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but it was great because I met a lot of women who spilled their cards. And I was able to help them restack their cards. And so it was a great place to hang out in college. But that was as close as I ever got to a computer. Then at Zale, I was asked to take care of shrinkage. And shrinkage, for those of you in retail, my specialty or my real niche where I see my greatest help is in retail and consumer product goods. And out of that comes consumer, and out of that comes people, and out of that comes sales, and out of et cetera. So I'm one of those who I dare, if there's anybody in this room that has a master's in engineering with an undergrad in business administration. Usually it's just the reverse. And I went to work for a little fly-by-night company, and unfortunately, two men who probably had the most effect of my life would be a guy by the name of M.B. Zale, who was here in Dallas, who started the Zale Corporation, and then a gentleman who passed away, a week ago, Ross Perot. Because when I left Zale after 6 years running store systems and went to work for a company called EDS. And I walked into them with a resume that was all store management. I'd been 21 years in retail. And a guy by the name of John McCain, who some of you may know, ended up running Capgemini in Europe and then came back and was with NTT Data for a while. Came back to me and said, this is all retail. Why are you here? And I said, well, you guys got computers, don't you? And I've been working on computers. And he left, came back. 5 interviews later, they hired me as a consultant with retail consumer product goods as a managing consultant, and I was out doing computer work. My first project was a little fly-by-night company called 7-Eleven. Don't know if any of you have heard of them. 7-Eleven got bought. They were owned by the Thompson family, and then they got bought by the Japanese. The Japanese said, we want everybody that's been involved with the account to come to Japan so we can figure out how we're going to do this, etc. I didn't even have a passport. Okay? So I got a passport, flew over there. While I was there, the guy who ran Japan sent me out on retail sales calls, working with the different retail clients we had. He got in touch with the guy in Argentina who had me come down there. We put in McDonald's through Chile, Brazil, and Argentina. He then talked to the guy up in Mexico City. These are all EDS country or regional managers. Took me up to Mexico City, where Grupo Bimbo, little fly-by-night company. Anybody ever heard of Mrs. Baird's? They're the holding large company behind all of Mrs. Baird's. There I got the chance to get into bottling with FEMSA and Panamco. They're two big bottlers. They were in the Caribbean and one was in northern Mexico. They merged. One was at IBM and one was EDS. So I'm sitting in Dallas, Texas, and my boss comes in and says, you're going to Monterey because the fact that these two, we want to keep the business. So I'd never done bottling, didn't know anything about bottling. Went down there, got into some white papers, read them on the way, and we ended up closing the deal. And so I'm in Mexico, back to Argentina, Argentina to India, India to Japan. I had a great run with EDS, and then after that, doing consulting with other companies. And the reason I kind of go through this whole 9 yards is the fact that I was up till probably the last third of my career with EDS, I had had no IT training whatsoever. But I'm somewhat decent when it comes to getting projects done. And I'm somewhat decent when it comes to people and how the people are associated with it. I have a saying I say that I can hire techies all day long. But finding people who understand technology can also communicate with customers and communicate with the team that they're working with and get the job done, I think is unfortunately a rarity. I think they say about 40% of projects that get started never finish. Okay? And that you give different numbers, different places. So where I'm going with all this is you're not going to get a bits and bytes and talking on a bunch of graphs and stuff that we're doing in regards to project management. We're going to talk tonight about what I call the soft side of technology. And one of the things I found in all the years I've been doing this and working around the globe with a lot of project teams, I'm not a PMP, just to tell you that. I've probably done $20 million worth of projects. But I never slowed down, just like I didn't have a college degree for a long time in IT. I never slowed down. I just kept going, and I don't know, people liked what we were doing, so we were getting the job done, and technology made sense. Then EDS sent me back to SMU for a master's, then to London Business School for a master's, and thank God, because if they wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't be standing here teaching at UTD, because I'm lucky I got out of high school, to be honest with you, okay? And so the soft side is very important. And what I've seen over and over again with these different projects is I think we have a bad habit of thinking that the soft side is just, that's for the guys who aren't smart. They can worry about that. They don't need, it's more important that I got the right people designing, doing the innovation, writing the software, putting the hardware together. That's more important than the people who are dealing with the soft side, what I call the soft side of technology. Now, the problem with that is, how many of you in here are salesmen? Okay, I got maybe 4 hands. Now, I hope I don't ruin your night, but you're all salesmen. The fact that you got up today and bathed, combed your hair, brushed your teeth, you're selling yourself. And it's very important on any projects that we actually get involved with the sales, handling the people, etc. And so that's kind of what I'm going to talk about tonight. So if you're not interested in talking about the soft skills, sorry, that's what we're going to do. I'll be glad to afterwards talk to you about any of the technical stuff if you want to talk about that. But what's happened is obviously we're here for project management. And if you go back in and there's a whole bunch of different books, but one of the PM books, whatever, there's 5 main steps. Okay, they want to go through. There's 5 main elements of a project. And we can spend every single word on this document up there, we can spend a whole night on talking about different aspects. But I want to start on the front end. I want to start on the front end of conception and how we put together the team, how we identify who our team is, what are the characteristics I want to bring to that team to be successful, what are the things I need to be paying attention to. And I believe it's the air and water of the project management. Everybody's got air. Nobody in this room got up this morning and said, I don't know if I'm going to have enough oxygen when I get to UTD when I sit there in this presentation. Okay? And if I need to get some water to drink, which is another life-sustaining part of what I do, I can get it when I get to UTD or on the way, stop somewhere and buy a bottle or whatever. We never think about that. And I would hazard to suggest to you that in project management, many times we don't think about the soft side and the side of it that is the day-to-day, keeping the thing working the way it should be. There's top 10 skills. This is really interesting. I was looking through one of LinkedIn or somewhere and came across the fact that in 2015, what were the top skills needed in information technology? And in 2020, they think this is what's going to be needed in information technology as well. Now, how many of those are bits and bytes? You know, really important that the creativity, complex problem solving, people management, coordinating with others, judgment and decision making, etc. All those elements are the differentiators that make your projects get successful versus possibly somebody else's project. And so, kind of getting the wind where I'm going with all this tonight. We're going to talk about this, the hard truths about the soft skills and what's going on in this world. I believe I have a trademarked thing that I use in some of these talks I do around the country, and when I work with different clients, I call it the Cpr of Technology. And the Cpr of Technology, what's a CPR? That's getting your heart going, you know, if you're going to die or whatever. CPR of Technology is getting your technology to go, but what it is communication, people, and relationships, which is very important. I will make this available to everybody if anybody wants this deck when we're done, because I really don't want to sit here and read all this stuff to you. But in communication, the quote up underneath the title there, although hard skills like specialized knowledge and technical expertise is an industry subsector are still essential, a successful leader needs a broad, soft skill set to navigate different managing situations. And this comes from the Society of HR Management. A couple articles they talked about this, about communication, emotional intelligence being very important in regards, being aware of your audience, what the different learning styles of your team you've got, what the skill set is, how do they work with each other, what are their interests, tailored messages, etc. And we're going to go in further into this as we get going in regards to some leadership skills. The skill sets to attack the gaps when you got the need of the learning, need of the soft skills is basically, the over-reliance on technology is eroding the person-to-person communication. And when we do that, we got to we'll talk to people. You're going to hear people. I would hate to guess how many times they'll say people before we're done tonight. Skill sets, combine communication skills with the ability to work under pressure, the right combination of business understanding, etc. My background and where I lucked out is when I came to Dallas in 1980 with Zale Corporation, the man who brought me down and was my mentor basically moved me around on all different projects. I ended up spending maybe a year in real estate, spent a year in marketing, spent 2 years in New York City doing manufacturing of jewelry, etc. Ran stores. How many of you ever heard of the Gordon's chain? I was the last, when we brought that chain on to Zale Corporation, I was running that entire thing. That was my last assignment in regards to running stores. But at about that time, we're sitting down in the early 90s, late 80s. Now we're starting to see the fact that all this IT's coming around. And one of the things a project they put me on was inventory control and what shrink is and what shrink's all about. And so I got in there, and my whole career in IT started basically with a president of the corporation saying, I want to know what type of reconciliation you're going through in regards to your inventory control for the company. Your job's to decrease the shrink. Anybody not know what shrink is when I talk about shrink? It's how much you got on the books versus how much you can count. Real simple. It's a very simple process, but people have a lot of difficulty with it. So I was sitting in a Boy Scout camp out. A friend of mine who worked for TI was sitting there, and I was really perplexed. He says, I want to know daily what's your reconciliation. I went to the mainframe guys, and they said, well, you fill out all these forms and send them in 3-part forms, and you're going to get this green bar, and da-da. It would take a week for you to get your update. And the president said, no way. I need it daily. Daily, I want to know what the reconciliation is. So I was sitting there with the president, and with this friend on the camp out, and I said to him, I said, and he said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go down. I want you to go to First National Rents, which is was at that time a place where you could rent monthly hardware, compact computers, compact 286s, Apple, etc., Mac, and ask for 123 as a software on it. I had no idea what he was talking about. So I went down there, I got it. And then that weekend, the next weekend, we spent a 3-day weekend literally going through the menu step by step. What's regression? What's cut? What's the difference between cut and delete? Copy, etc. And that's how I learned computers. And we ended up coming back to Zale. At that time, Zale had about 4,500 stores across the country. So we're doing this reconciliation on a daily basis. And we ended up putting together a 32-file bunch of spreadsheets, hooked them all together, which I now know is a database. I didn't know it at that time. Okay? And it took 21 hours every day to run that system. Okay? Huh? Yeah, compact 280. Remember the sewing machine that you laid it on its back and you had the little keyboard and the little window about this big? So that's how I got into computers. Okay? And unfortunately, what that did is it told me that, how hard can this be? Give me a 3-day weekend. I can figure this out. And so that's what got me going in this direction. And then I had all these other retail, consumer, etc. So by the time I showed up at EDS to be doing a consulting with different companies, I was very focused on the customer, probably more focused on the customer than I was on the capabilities of the IT that we were trying to put together for them. And that's where I kind of picked up that saying, I can get techies anywhere. That's not the hard part. The hard part is selling the projects. So the CPR, I have this trademarked, by the way, not that it really means anything. But communication, people, relationship. You always heard what are the 3 primary elements of retail? Location, location, location. Well, for me, when we get to IT, the 3 primary needs when you're running a project are relationships, relationships, relationships. How many of you in here as a project manager running a project have always wanted to have one of your team members on all the projects you are because you had a relationship with that individual that you didn't have to train anybody else? They thought the way you thought. They understood what you were thinking of. Same thing. Relationships, relationships, relationships. Teamwork is a learned skill needed. Trust, management, working together, team foundation. All of these, again, in this particular room, in this environment, you're going to go, I knew about trust. Trust is not that big of a deal. Well, I'm inclined to suggest, and we'll get into question and answers later, but I'm inclined to suggest that all of this is a needed capability and skills if you're going to be successful in any project management, any program management. I was sitting talking to a couple of my friends here before we got started, and I've been more of a program manager than a project manager. I've always been a client partner or the lead or the customer executive on different projects, but I would hazard to suggest that no project gets done without the entire team being involved. And even the person who's keeping the executives out of the room and making sure that they understand what you're trying to do, that skill set is needed so that your project team is able to get in and get done and be done with it. There's a book called Peopleware. This is kind of my pet peeve, is this whole soft side. And so I've been trying to figure out, what do we name this stuff? Anyway, I can talk hardware. I'm teaching school right now. I teach the students 5 things: hardware, software, people, processes, and data. Those 5 elements have to be in anything we do IT. I dare you to challenge me on that. It's very simple. Too simple, maybe. But the question is that people side. We always talk about hardware and software and what it can do, but what about the people? There's a book written back in 1992, I think it is, called Peopleware. So I got all excited. We've got hardware, we've got software, we've got peopleware. I found how I'm going to name my soft side. And everybody kind of looks at me like, man, it doesn't really matter, whatever, people, yeah. We know we got people. We get up, we're human beings, we know people are involved. But I believe this is an area that really needs attention. Building trust. And like I said, I'll be glad to share this with you but technical capabilities and interaction cannot stand alone. Relationships cannot hinge on technical personal relationships. Understanding is key. Success is mutually described so many times all team members know when it is achieved. Trust. Team members will want to put their success in your hands. So I sat down and I go back to this book called Peopleware. I'm going to read this thing. And I guess, has anybody ever seen or heard about the book Peopleware? Suppose it's like 5 or 6 new versions since, and it's been around forever. And I mean, Chuck, we all knew about it. Why are you making such a big deal about it? But I read the thing, and it has some very interesting aspects of how you run a project and how you deal with your technical people, and how for a project manager, your key is to keep everybody else away from your technical team so they can do what they do. So they can do what they know how to do. And your job is to make sure that they have the time and the capacity to think, innovate, and do whatever needs to be done for the technical aspect of the project. This is, I don't know how you pronounce it, the Chinese guy who's I don't know what the book is, but whatever. He goes in and talks about leadership as for the best leaders, the people do not notice their existence. So a good leader is someone who people don't know that they're the leader necessarily. For some of us who don't have years and years and years and years and years of technical experience, and later in life got involved with technology and got our training, etc., it's good to not know that you exist, and yet you're still able to lead the project, get the job done, etc. The next best is people that honor and praise those individuals. Then going farther down into people you don't want to necessarily be your leader, the next is you got your employees want to fear you. You're not going to get anything done as a project manager if your employees fear you. They need to be working together. When the best leader's work is done, the people should say, we did it ourselves. And the ideal way to run a project as a project manager is to be in that situation where your team thinks they did it all. I actually enjoy the fact that I've got people that worked for me that think, Chuck really doesn't know anything. Chuck's kind of, I use that I kind of play off of that. I want them to be the leader. I want them to know what's going on. I want them to be proud of what they've done to make us to be successful. 10 common traits of successful leaders. Passion, intelligence. We're going to talk about each of these in particular in a couple slides here. Passion, intelligence, great communication skills. Nothing up here talks about bits or bytes, testing, or any of the work that you would be doing necessarily on a computer. Everything up here has to do with you as a human and the soft side of the production. Passion, first thing, Elizabeth Dole and Campbell Soup, David Johnson, a couple of quotes up here about how important passion is when you're running a project. Don't wait and don't look for approval. Do what you got to do. I live by a term, and I'm surprised PMI hasn't put it into their publications. It's a lot easier to get forgiven than ask permission. Now, that's kind of, I'm a project manager. I don't want my people doing stuff I haven't given them permission to do. I want my people to think outside of the box. I want them to figure out how we're going to do this better, faster, cheaper, etc. Intelligence and clarity of thinking. Herb Kelleher, Southwest Airlines, I think, yeah, or American, one of the two. But he, local guy here, nice guy, not with us anymore. But his whole thought was in regards to letting people do what they think they can do and how to do it. Let them figure it out. I don't have to tell you how to service somebody. I don't have to tell you how to talk. I hopefully don't have to tell you how to talk to a customer or talk about how you're going to get things done. Great communication skills. As I said earlier, CPR, communication, people, relationships. The best business leaders can effectively explain their business fundamentals, strategy, etc. If you ask me right now, let's go talk about blockchain and let's get down into the nitty-gritty and what makes it work, I have no idea. Okay, I've had blockchain experts come and talk to my classes. I understand the mathematical and the algorithms and everything that's associated with it, but you don't want me playing with that stuff because it's not going to get fixed and I'll probably break it in the process. But I understand what we're trying to do. So action in ways that tap into an employee's sense of meaning. And why do these guys get out of bed in the morning? Why are your technical team there? High energy level. Now, that kind of seems counterproductive at times when I'm thinking about a room full of computer programmers that are sitting in there doing what they're doing. Well, the key to this whole situation is, what is the energy we're talking about? Okay? If the energy that I'm proud of is running in a race or playing baseball or something like that, that's not necessarily going to help me in regards to what we're trying to accomplish with our skill set in the technology. Ego's in check. Everybody wants to be the boss. Everybody wants to be top dog. How do you get everybody involved so they all feel like they have ownership and they know what they're doing? Egos are really can be a problem. Especially when you get, how many of you have ever had that guy on your team or lady on your team who could do circles around you in programming and writing code and they know it? And they kind of think they got the walk of the, they're in charge. So you can be the boss, you can be the project manager, but I'm really the brains behind this organization of what's going on. Any of you had employees like that? Yeah? So the bottom line is, how do we get them to back off a little bit of their ego, but be part of the team and help people? Best thing I've ever learned was, if you want to teach somebody something, have them teach it. If you've got a particular code or a particular application that you want all the members of your team to be pretty sufficient in, and some of them aren't, some of them are new to your team, you've been given this person because they didn't have anything else to do this next 6 months, have them teach. Have them teach your team how to do different things. And you'll be amazed how fast the egos are in check, and also how the whole team's going to start knowing what's going on. Inner peace, pretty basic, talking about the fact that a good leader, good project manager, if you're running a project, you got to be comfortable with yourself, got to be comfortable with the shoes you get up in the morning, be comfortable in your own skin, what's going on, how things are happening. Capitalize on the formative early life experiences. I love this little drawing here of the kid. And obviously I see the feet. Those are not a 40-year-old. That's a little kid. When a child learns to walk and falls 50 times, he never thinks to himself, maybe this ain't for me. How many times have you had somebody on your team in project management who, this really isn't for me? And have you pulled them aside, put your arm around them and said, let's try it again. Let's keep trying it again. Let's try it again. It'll pay off. It will come to work out. Strong family lives. Not only strong family lives that they bring to the workplace, which sometimes as a project manager, I got deliverables I got to get done, and I really don't need them spending a lot of time at home with their family. I need them working 24 hours a day, 10 days a week, so we can get the project done. That's going to work against you. You need to keep the family lives involved and how you can. And in many ways, I would bet, and I don't know everybody in here, but I would bet that the majority of the successful project managers in this room right now, your project teams look at your projects like a family. The way you manage the team, the way you manage the needs, the way you work with those people, how you keep them between the curbs, etc. Positive attitude. I tend to never use the word problem. Little thing I started many years ago. It's always an opportunity. There's no such thing as a problem. We've got opportunities. Now, my teams over the years would kind of laugh about it and say, we got problems. But I want to keep the focus in regards to a positive, how we can, Michael Dell, turning mistakes into learning experiences is a corollary of maintaining a positive attitude. Okay? Are we all always going to be successful with our projects? No. There's going to be times things don't work right. You don't have the budget, you don't have scope, you don't have the right resources to get the job done. And then doing the right things right. Anybody know the definition of integrity? Doing the right thing when nobody's looking. And as we as leaders and running project teams need to have that mindset of what we're doing and how we're doing things. 5 lessons most learn way too late in life. Perception is reality. Have you ever had an employee come to you and say, well, that's not reality. The customer wants us to do this, do that, and do the other thing. But that's not reality. Well, to the customer, that's reality. Their perception is that's the reality. And that's what's going to happen. So you need to approach reality as a perception of your customers, etc. Everything is temporary. Okay? I heard a saying many, many years ago about yesterday was a canceled check, tomorrow's a promissory note, and today is all I've got to live for. So as we as project leaders, yes, we're looking at a project that may got these gorgeous Gantt charts and all these different documents we're sharing in our steering committees with our clients that we're working with. We're showing them all this great stuff. It's going to take weeks, months, who knows how long, depending on the project. But everything's today. It's temporary. So we got to make the best of today that we can. Being in the present. Again, making the best of today. The old saying was, I heard many, many years ago, you know, if you love what you do, you'll never work another day in your life. This here's saying, do what you love what you do. How many of you in here do not love what you're doing or do not enjoy what you're doing? You don't need to raise hands, but if there's any of you in that, you need to find something else to do. You know, I'm having a ball right now because I get to teach and work with a lot of students and stuff, and I never go to work. Every day is fun. I've been a consultant for the last 15 years with my own company, so again, I get to pick and choose what I want to do. I learned that early, that I'm going to, the customers I want to work with, and there's customers I don't want to work with. Customers I don't want to work with, guess what? I don't work with them. Okay? And that, what a way to go through life. Now, am I rich and got all the money and am I taking over large corporations? I don't want to take over large corporations. I want to enjoy what I'm doing and be able to help people get where they need to go, doing what they want to do. Help people develop the soft side. I spend it was mentioned earlier when they were talking about, when the comment was made in regards to that I've traveled a lot of the continents and stuff. Spent 2 years expat in Argentina, 2 years expat in Mexico, 2 years expat in India, 2 years expat in Japan, and 2 years expat in somebody I just missed, Malaysia. Matter of fact, if I wasn't married, we wouldn't be talking right now. I'd be in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Favorite place on earth. But I've had the privilege of kind of picking and choosing where I want to go. And to this day, many of my clients in all those different locations around the world, they're still doing business with me. What they have me do is just this. There's a company called Eon in Malaysia that runs about 308 large department store, grocery store combined throughout Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, and Laos. And they fly me in every 9 months to sit down and spend at least a week with their senior management talking about the soft side of technology. And they found that they feel that that's something worth their time and effort to bring in all your technology people and go over what are some of the cultures and some of the skills, etc. And then be happy. Be happy takes work. I tend to be a positive person. I got a lot of people that say, do you ever have a bad day? Yeah, I have a bad day. But I choose not to focus on that. I want to figure out what we're going to do so that tomorrow and moving forward, it's going to be positive around the entire team. Things that require zero talent. Now, this is something that I teach to all my students. I don't know how many of you are familiar with who UTD is. We're probably a pretty substantial technical university. We have 29,000 students, I think it is now. And we get kids in from China, from Pakistan, from all over the world, India, obviously. And one of the things I teach to these kids in these classes is, you may be a muckety-muck and got this technology all figured out, and you may be able to got some great innovation ideas. Maybe you got a couple startups you want to get involved with. But if you want to be successful in life, these 10 things don't cost anything and really don't have any talent other than being able to read. And I highly recommend that. Nerd is the new sexy. That's you're supposed to giggle. Nerd is the new sexy, though. But when you think about it, because technology is involved in everything we do in life, technology is everywhere. I had 4 times 60, what's that, 240 students last semester. And I started off every one of my classes with, here's the deal. If you can come to me and tell me about a major in this university that you can do that doesn't take any technology and has not technology involved, I'll give you an A right now and you don't have to come back to class. How many people do you think I've had call me on that? 0. Not a single one. I did have one kid who got real close. Really nice young man. Came from Pakistan. And he comes in and he's, Professor Haseman, I think I can get my A. I said, you can, really? Oh yeah, I think I can get my A. Let's talk. Well, I come from Pakistan, and our family is in the textile business. Everything we do is washing and ink and these old machines that my grandfathers had for probably 40, 50 years. No technology involved. I said, really? Why are you here at UTD? What do you mean? I said, why are you here at UTD? My brother and I, my grandfather sent us to college so we could learn about technology and how we can apply it to the business. So technology is what it's all about. Technology is our bread and butter. You as project managers and in the PMP process, etc., are in a position where you are going to be able to change the world because everything's based on technology. And even if you're somebody who spent most of their career running jewelry stores, technology is still very important. Plus it pays better than jewelry stores pay. That's why I came over into technology. I was asked, would you like to do a 90-day assignment and do the requirements for all the things we're doing, help with our new POS systems, our new computers. Remember the old fax machines that stunk? They'd go around and it was all chemicals and ever. Bring in all this new technology and all these printers and all this fancy stuff. I said, well, you know. I go back to my comment about how difficult stuff can be, etc. How difficult is it going to be? Yeah, I'll be glad to. 90-day assignment. 6 years later, I left as the director of store systems. Why? Because IT pays better than store managers paid. And I was able to take what I did and parlay it into better things. So that's basically what I have to talk about tonight. And I wanted to have some time. I think we're good for having, I can't see the clock, so. We got, what, 20 minutes? Almost like I know what I'm doing. So what I want to do now is we'll just any questions and answers or comments or thoughts. That was asked of me that we make sure we do that. Hopefully try and bail you out and make this worth your time. If you came here expecting to leave as a new AI executive or a new machine learning specialist, or you ain't going to learn that here from me. So,
Any questions? Be right over. Just a second, I got a mic here for you. It's for the video recording.
This way they can sue me or whatever if we say the wrong thing.
I'm interested to hear sort of your perspective on how you build a team to take different people have different skills in their soft skills, and how you sort of build a team to get all of them in one place, since not one person has kind of everything.
Yeah, Let me repeat back to you. How do you build a team when one person is kind of the bread and butter of the team who knows everything, and how do you get everybody else involved as a team, or just as a whole team?
I was really looking, maybe, I think I was looking for sort of recognizing like my team members, they all have good skill, like great soft skills, but like one or two, not one person has like every great. So sort of how you kind of put them together and target the skills that you want to pull out from each of them.
Do you bake?
Bake.
Cook in the kitchen? Where I'm going with that is all the people on your team are ingredients. And how do you put it together to get the someone's going to be the sugar, someone's going to be the salt, someone's going to be, I don't know, the pan to hold it together. And so, I do a lot of, first of all, storytelling, I think, is very important. And teaching should be storytelling. And so on my teams, we tend to, I got a great, I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to do this. Being creative and trying to figure out how you can get to solving a problem. Let me give you, and I hope this kind of, so I'm sitting here and I'm running an account. Anybody ever shopped at a Belk store? Belk department stores? Okay, that was one of my clients. They have about 304 stores. They're out in Charlotte, North Dakota. And I was the client partner for an Indian firm that was doing a lot of the information services, et cetera, for the company. We were very active in a e-commerce project, very active. I had probably 250 people working in India, in Chennai, and I had maybe 100 people here working in Charlotte. Big project, a lot of stuff going on. And the company went out and hired a lady to come in who was the director, great background, great knowledge. She's going to be the director in charge of e-commerce for the company. Came in, she was probably late 40s, single woman, just got her MBA, knew her stuff, ready to rock and roll, etc. Came in, and in retail, back then, probably still to the day, women don't necessarily walk in and take over the place. They've got to earn their place in the organization. So her name was Denise. And so we got this $4 million project we're working on. And I'm the client partner responsible for the entire project. And she's coming in, and everybody on my team wants to call her Dennis. Because I'm from India, and how would I pronounce Denise? I'd pronounce it as Dennis. If I wasn't paying attention. And if I didn't realize I was going to offend this person. So I had a lady, professional lady, had the education, had the chops, she knew what she was doing, and she had all these people that had been hired. She didn't hire them, they came in with our managed services organization, and they were all calling her Dennis. Now, how do you think she felt? Because it was Dennis all the time. No, my name's Dennis. My name's Dennis. So I got everybody in a room, and this is more of the creative, how do you get your team to do what you want them to do? And I had about probably my 50 top leaders in a room, and I gave them all a pen and a piece of paper. And I said, here's what I want you to do. Now you got to remember, probably half these people have PhDs, masters, multiple masters. Okay, they know what they're doing. They're techies. They know their technology inside and out. So I had them take this pencil and write a D. Now, anybody in here PhD, got a PhD? Anybody got here? Couple of masters. Okay? If I pulled you into a room with 45, 50 people and sat there and said, I want you to write a D, what would you do? This guy's crazy. Obviously, he's a sales guy because he doesn't know what he's talking about. Yeah. And I said, okay, let's do it again. I want you to write D. And then I said, we sat there and we talked. And I said, I want you to write D again. I want you to write D again. Now I got a guy standing up. Well, I'm paid too much to sit here and write D's on a piece of paper. I said, you walk out that door, you're fired. He sat back down. So now, guys, why do you think I'm asking you to write this D, 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 D? And one of the younger guys finally raised his hand and said, because we call Denise Dennis, and if every time we see a D, we think D, we're going to call her Denise, right? So we fixed that problem. $4 million. Do you think the company was happy? Because she was ready to throw us out the door. She was ready to get rid of us because nobody had the desire to listen and pay attention to who she was. So where am I going with this? You're saying, oh, I had to ask a question. He's giving me this dumb answer. You got to be creative and figure out how to get these people working together. Remember I made a comment earlier about training, having people train people so they learn the product, whatever. So if I've got one of your guys on the team who's having problems with scheduling or communicating with the client, have them teach the rest of the team how to communicate with the client. Have them go out and pull up a bunch of websites and pull up a bunch of paper, read some books, whatever, and come back and tell the team how to do it. That's what I've done for years and years and years. Does that kind of make sense? You know, be creative. You got to be creative of how to get this stuff done. You're not going to find a book that tells you how to do this stuff. That's why you're a project manager. When we were talking earlier, before I got started, it was about who's all going to be, who are you quoting in here, etc. And I said, well, the one I didn't quote that I would like to quote was Bennis. I think I wrote a book a long time ago. I don't know if anybody, was it William Bennis or something like that? But he has just a basic quote is, managers do the right thing, leaders do the thing that's right. Yeah, Warren Bennis. Managers do, so in other words, I'm on this project team and we're going to be doing all this stuff, so I know that we have to do this, and that, and all those things, and we're going to do, I don't care if it really helps the client or not, but that's what I'm supposed to do. The leader's the one who says, wait a moment, what are the things that we need to do to get the job done, as opposed to dotting the I's, crossing the T's, and getting our check marks. So, just a thought. That's my thoughts. Take it, leave it, whatever. Any other questions or thoughts?
Let me just bring the mic up.
I think I got a great story about schmooze here in a minute. I just thought about it.
I'd like to get your thoughts on your CPR, your communication, people relationships, with all the things that we have going on in the day, the task at hand, the customers, internal and external, and the various modes of communication, email, text, phone call, the drop-ins and all that, and the building a relationship. I find myself sometimes, you know, you got staff and you got to just hold on and make time for them. What are your thoughts on, other than in the back of your head or in front of your mind, how do you balance, you know, doing the right thing and the right time and the right amount of time, with time being such a limited source or resource?
Well, I think my approach initially would be, you got to get it done. Okay, that's why there's 24 hours in a day. And my wife hates to hear me say that because, you know, that's why there's 24 hours in a day. We'll get the job done. But what I would go back to in regards to that is taking the mindset as a project manager of managing the project in such a way that you accomplish those tasks. So instead of sitting down and looking at a chart and looking at my schedule and how many hours I got and how many people, what are my resources, what's my scope, et cetera, and trying to play with all this, sit down and really think it through how you want to accomplish it. Now, in the retail business, first thing I tell people that come to work for me with a retail client is that they're retailers. So now what's unique about a retailer? Most of them are paid hourly. Okay? Most of them are there to serve customers. Even the CIO at Belk when I was there is now at Border, I don't know, somebody up in Massachusetts, starts with a B, Beyond, I'll think of it here in a second. But he's up there now, but even he was a retail savvy IT professional. You're not going to find a CIO in a retail company that all he's worried about is bits and bytes and playing with computers. They wouldn't have hired him if he didn't have the underlying thought process and emotional well-being to fall into a consumer-driven, customer-oriented retail business. So what you got to do is when you sit down and look at your project, think about that type of stuff. Who are the people that I'm going to have to deal with? Who's the team they've given me? With your last team you put, how many of you get the resume and do some interviewing and following up on the people that get put on your team that you've never worked with? Or do you just take whoever they throw at you? Even if you have to take these people because they said, these 6 people are going to make up your project team to get this project done, sit down and understand who they are. Take them one by one off. Yeah, it's going to take a little bit of time. Go buy coffee. Sit with them. What's their priority? What do they want to do? Where are they trying to go? What are they thinking about doing? So that you start to build a database of who they are, what's their priorities, where they've been, where they haven't been, and then be creative of how you tie them together to get the job done. That's not an answer out of a book, but that's how I would approach it. Take the time up front. Don't wait until you've got the president of the company sitting there going, you guys told me this thing was going to be done in 2 weeks. And now you're telling me it's going to be done in 6 months. Don't wait till when the house is burning down to start wondering how you're going to get the animals out of the barn. Think through it before you get there, would be my thoughts, for what it's worth. That kind of, at least you know where I'm coming from. But. Any other questions? Yeah.
So I've been part of a lot of projects.
We got a question back.
Oh, okay. We had one up here too.
I have the mic.
But you got the microphone.
I lead.
So you're going to be in.
Yeah. Sorry for that. But my question is, it's a sort of, in a major scale, not in a small projects. So the best practices in project management, as you said, I enjoyed every word you talking, I wasn't expecting that I will stay till the end of your presentation, but you attracted me. So the question is, we all know as a big organization project where you have regions and markets, and we all know that there is best practices in the project management, which is like you have a best engineer who can design and make a process and follow and integrate. And you have a best construction manager who can build a site. So my style of project management, I always, when I come to a project, I hire that best engineer. I know him. I have the skills, and I know that he's good. I hire that best construction manager, and then everyone comes under them. They teach them to follow the same discipline I want, and I told them the way I want it, and they follow it, and we achieve success. So the bottom line is, you teach your team exactly what you said. You sit with him, you have a coffee, you understand what he's doing. So to me, I see this basic, simple, but why it's not implemented everywhere? Why they don't do it like in any other projects? They don't do this. They let it go easy. Is it the leadership up there? They don't know that these things should be done this way to have the best practices, the best people, and everyone else, they follow them. My question, why we are not doing this, as a PMI, as a project management, PMP, they set the idealistic standards, but when you comes to the project level, nobody is applying anything, and nobody is in following the basic principles, fundamentals that I believe that, they should follow. Anyone, has skills and experience knows that this is the way you achieve success, to put the right people in the right place and to let all other peoples follow the same discipline and same best practices. So is it like, my question, why is this is not implemented in most of a lot of projects? Is it lack of knowledge, experience, or what?
All of the above. All of the above. I wish I had the answer to all that, because I would be able to retire a very happy man. I think the problem is, just like I'm spending all this time talking about the soft side of technology, we don't talk about that until it's a problem. We don't talk about needing to fix these things till there's a problem, because we all got it figured out. And I'm not saying we don't have it all figured out. I'm just saying we need to go back and revisit and think it through so we know where we're at. Just like you said, when you prepare to start a project, you know the guys you want, you're having them train their people, you got it all organized, whatever. You've thought that all through. All the communication, the relationships, the people, all the leadership skills, etc. It's not just, I know I'm going to have this particular software and that particular software and this particular hardware, and everything will be happily ever after. It doesn't work that way. And I think it's a maturity thing. It's just having been there, done that. That's like, how do you teach people to learn? If you want somebody to learn something, you have them teach it. Okay? Is kind of my rule of thumb. And I'll take the people aside and have them teaching, and I'll have other people on the team going, why are you letting them do that? They don't know what they're doing. But I also have had, at the end of different projects, people who are saying, now I know why you did that. My favorite part of teaching right now is what I call aha moments. Just like that young man I talked about from Pakistan. When I saw that look on his face where he goes, okay, aha. That's the same with your teams. What do you got to do to make them tie in and know what's going on and be able to be part of the team to win the thing? So that would be, I wish everybody did it. We wouldn't have, 40 to 50% of all projects fail if people did it the right way. But there's a lot of reasons. Do they have the money? Do they have the right people? What type of silos are in the company? Who's playing games with who? Etc. All that's going on. But that's why in this room are the mature senior project managers who the job is to get the job done. And I hazard to suggest, and I'll close on this unless there's somebody got a burning desire question, would be that, Bob's got one. Bob, what's your question? Then I'll do my swan song.
Well, my experience is there's no perfect project team. And the dynamics typically don't always work from the top down. This is what I want, do it. Mm-hmm. Especially with a lot of highly creative, talented, technical people who are doing something for the first time. Mm-hmm. And their desires don't always mesh with what you need to have done and the way they work together. There's a lot of dynamics at play. So there's a lot of realignment that has to take place, of attitudes, of understanding of what needs to be done. How do you facilitate that among the team to help them want to fill those gaps, to realign, to have a desire to do the things that maybe they haven't done before, or that fill a gap in the team?
I don't know, but I would approach the project and approach the situation trying to know where those opportunities are going to be. Who are the people on the team that are going to need some additional work? Where are where are the holes in my armor? What do I got to do? I think there's a lot more to running a project than just being the guy who runs the steering committee meeting and makes everybody happy. A successful project is going to have an individual who is able to pull together whatever, make the cake that I said over here earlier. You've given me one of the things, it was said earlier, I do a lot of Boy Scouting. What's fun is where you give a box full of ingredients to a kid and say, eat it. There's your dinner. Hope you enjoy it. Now, in that box, they can make a dinner out of it. But you'll be amazed what they try to make. They don't put the ingredients together the best way they could. Now, why do you think we do that in scouting to a teenager? So they learn. Okay, so hopefully one of you, on one of your project teams, will get a young kid who just graduated from college, who was a Boy Scout, and have the opportunity to get a box full of who knows what and try to make a meal out of it. Because that may be very well what you need them to do on your project team. So I don't have an answer, but it's just, being creative. Am I okay? So if you got my phone number, email, feel free to holler at me. If you'd like the deck, let me know. Email me. I don't know if they're going to have it here available, but I'll be glad to send it to you or whatever. If I can ever help in any way. If you haven't already learned, I like talking, and call me. Let's talk about it. We'll figure it out. Okay?
Just a final note for our newcomers. The way it works, the video recording will embed these slides. So in a few weeks' time, they'll show up on the website, but it's about 5 clicks down to get to the website where this is located. Thanks very much. Thanks all. See you next time.